Your volume's gone down, Keane.
You're muted, Keane.
Can you hear me now, lads?
Yeah.
Some host.
Great
Yeah,
start.
my mic was muted there for a few seconds. I actually didn't know what was going on. It's like the early days. But hello, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. We are back on our London show today, the London Lowdown. I am back here for the first time in a couple of months hosting this show because it's a very special feel to it here today, and I wanted to get involved in this one. We are here for the small matter of the North London Derby, one of the, I suppose, weirdest North London derbies in quite some time. Has a completely different feel to it as has done in previous years, which we're gonna kick on to now in a few minutes. We'll explain why. But I'm joined by a full panel of guests here today. So to my right, I am joined by William Bryant, our Arsenal representative here today. And below me, as always, two London Lowdown regulars and Tottenham Hotspur supporters, Jamie Mackey-Murphy and Steve McGrath. So today, this is, I suppose, a well different derby preview to the preview we had when we first started the channel. When we first started the channel, both sets of you, like William, Steve, and Jamie, you were very kind of not excited coming up towards it because there wasn't really much on the line. But this North London derby has quite more significance compared to the last one, considering kind of where both clubs are now in the league. Like, firstly, William, I'm just going to come to you first. Obviously, coming into this North London derby, both teams have a contrasted form. Spurs are top of the table. Spurs are flying at the minute. Arsenal, however, are in 14th place at the moment, and they're in a kind of a bit of a, since the Man United game, like they haven't kicked on from that big result you got at Old Trafford. Like, how do you feel coming into this North London derby? Because usually in years past, Arsenal have always been favourites in this game. Now the tables seem to have turned, and looks like Tottenham are now the favourites coming into this game. Like, how are you feeling coming into this derby?
Honestly, was always feeling a little bit apprehensive. Even in recent years, we haven't had the best of records against Tottenham, unfortunately. It's like the North London derby has seemed to slip away from our victory column. There has been a nice amount of draws in there, but going to Tottenham has been quite difficult. It's the reason why in our top six record, we hadn't won away to a big top six game in ages. And now put on that negative form, it's really a nightmare. However, as an Arsenal fan, I'm always getting these feelings. It's pure annoying. It's like I watch the team in the Premier League. It's absolutely dreadful. Then I go on and watch us on Thursday nights in the amazing Europa League. We love Europa League here on the London Lowdown. But I see our team play amazing. It's like, yay.
Show in a couple of weeks as well.
You never know. But honestly, like, you see them play, you're like, yes, this is great. Come on now, we can kick on at the weekend. And then we do absolutely terrible at the weekend, and the cycle just follows and follows. And that's why I'm a bit apprehensive about getting confident. But at least Thursday has given me a little bit of hope that we can attack and play free-flowing football, even though it was against minnows in terms of an Austrian league that were third place. But then again, Tottenham played against the second place with their second team and they drew. So at least I can say our second team is probably better than their second team. I'm hoping we'll do well, but nervous as well.
And Steve, I'm going to come to you because I remember discussing with you on the previous North London derby preview. You weren't really interested at all in the game, which is quite obscene, really, because you're such a passionate Tottenham supporter. Like, how are you feeling coming into this week? Because this season,
I wouldn't say I wasn't disinterested.
We'll have to go back and look at the archives because
I wouldn't say disinterest. I mean, there's never like disinterest in a Tottenham Arsenal game, but I guess like it didn't really have much meaning at the time, I suppose, in terms of like we practically kind of written off the season as such. Like, like I don't like the fact that everyone is like thinking that this is a walkover for Spurs. Like, it absolutely isn't in any way, shape, or form. It's North London derby form, absolutely out the window. Like, if you look back, say like the last 5 games, Spurs have like 4 wins and a draw, and Arsenal have like a very intermittent thing. But I don't know. Like, I know William said like that he's in the hope tomorrow that they might have some sort of like attacking a free flowing football, but that's not the team that play tomorrow. And I think that's like they're like the Premier League team isn't that Arsenal have played in the last few games isn't about attacking free flowing football. It's about not losing. And I think while Jose is very resolute in his defensive tactics, he's not as about not losing as Arteta is at the moment in the Premier League. And I think that would something happened with Spurs after the West Ham game. Up until that point, we were very much like attacking. Like the United game just previous to that, obviously, like again, yes, you were down to 10 men, but even still, you could see the way we approached the game. We were looking to attack. We were looking to press high. We were looking to win the ball and be dogged up top. And then the West Ham game, we were the same. And then afterwards, we haven't been since. All of our games afterwards have been very safe, very pragmatic, and just grab a goal. Like since the United win, our biggest win since then has been the 2-0 against City. Do you know, if you look at it like that, like, and again, the goals against City, like, we'll say fair enough. The first goal, lovely ball over the top from Ndombele onto Son. But our second goal was absolute classic breakaway, counter-attacking, taking advantage of the spaces where City were trying to exploit us and get the goal back. So, yes, I'm more confident than I would have been in recent years about a North London derby. I think it's 2018 the last time Arsenal won. 4-2.
Yeah, the Unai Emery and
4-2.
Pereira scoring the last goal. Yeah.
So since then, like it's been pretty okay, but I don't like this media thing of I think this should be a cakewalk. It absolutely won't be. But we have fans back tomorrow, which I don't know. Like I mean, that could be. It could be a deciding factor. You never know. But I've from Twitter, you get to see some of the people that have gotten the tickets.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of divisiveness amongst the Spurs fans on Twitter about who's gotten the tickets. Some of them are, say, quite high-profile Twitter accounts. Wouldn't be the ones who would be all singing and all cheering. So, but look, I think we've as good a chance as ever if we have a fully fit squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you see since the United game, the Spurs haven't went out and they haven't put 6 past teams, but what they have done is they've got results, and I think that's like the most important thing. Because I think with Spurs in recent years, it's always kind of a stop-start period in terms of form. But now you can see there's consistency there, and that's something that you see sometimes with Jose Mourinho in his first or second season, that when he goes on to like either win a title or like challenge for a league, there is that there, and it's sustainable. And I think that's where Spurs are maybe heading in that direction. And Jamie, how are you feeling coming into this? I've talked to you during the week, and you've been quite confident coming into this fixture. Are you still feeling the same 24 hours out?
No, I know I'm confident. I'm confident in the game. I think the game against Lask, I know William referred to it, but I think Ali Gold said it yesterday on his preview about the results the result and performance served a purpose. And I think it served a purpose in terms of the fans to recalibrate us to be less confident in one way, but it also has calibrated the players in 2 ways. The first way is the first team who will play on Sunday will have even more responsibility because Jose is really saying, look, these guys are wanting to play for the team. So first, that's what it's going to be. And secondly, it's going to make us not be complacent going in against Arsenal because it's going to be a tough game. As the 2 boys have said, form is out the window. It doesn't really matter to us really like where we are in the league. It's still that has no bearings in terms of the performance and the 3 points. So I'm still confident we can win the game tomorrow. If if Joe Hart starts in goal, that's where I'm starting to really like. Lloris has been so good this year, and it isn't a dig on Joe Hart. It's more of a how good Hugo has been. Hugo has been a different level for us this season, where last season, the season before, he was always susceptible to an odd clanger here and there. And this season, he's been much more consistent, much more solid. The goals that he has conceded have been unavoidable. Like, it's just been Lanzini hitting a shot in top corner, or it's been penalties, or it's been whatever, set pieces, where he hasn't been in control of the situation, but he's done his job to a T this season. So Hugo starting for us tomorrow or on Sunday, tomorrow, is absolutely massive. But I am confident. Going into the game, but I'm not complacent. I know Arsenal can beat us. That's like, I'd be a fool to say that Arsenal couldn't beat us tomorrow. But I am confident if we played the way we played over the last couple of weeks. I kind of felt with the two games between City and Chelsea, I feel Mourinho in his head said to himself, 4 points is what I want from these two games. I just think that was what he was going for. 4 points was it. And either game, so against City, we got the early goal, which was the blueprint for a Mourinho, I suppose, tactics and formation. But in that game, I know Steve has said that the two goals we got were kind of a bit safe, but we were getting 5 or 6 into the box on runs when we did break. We were actually getting players forward. But against Chelsea last weekend in the second half, that didn't happen. That was his 4 points got, like, perfect. Let's get out of this now. And I'm really interested tomorrow to see what happens against Arsenal, because City, and I don't mind saying this, City have a better team than us. Individually have a better team than us. So the tactics against them is to defend and get them on the counter. That's our strengths. Chelsea arguably are a better team than us individually, but Arsenal aren't. Arsenal are not a better team than us, and that's just fact this season. And William can't even disagree with that. Arsenal are a better team. Tottenham are a better team. So going into this game, how does Mourinho do this? Does he go in to say, we are the better team and let's just put it on them? Or is he going to approach it very pragmatically and hope that Arsenal have some confidence from the other night, which I kind of want them to have? I want Arsenal to come into this game with confidence, because confidence means that they will attack, and confidence means that we can defend and break. And if we counter-attack against Arsenal, the game is over. The game is over. It's not going to be an easy game for Arsenal. But if Arsenal are pragmatic in it, then I don't know what's going to happen. That's where it's going to be very, very interesting. And I think it was Alistair Gold again, that Ndombele tomorrow is the player that is going to decide the game, I think. He is the player that's going to decide the game.
I think Arsenal could try do to us what we did to City.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's potentially what it's going to be. And that seems to be Arteta's mold so far this season. But his attacking players have not played as good as our attacking players. Aubameyang has let you down this season, when our best striker is carrying us loads this season. And that's the biggest difference, I think, between the two teams. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. It's really interesting from the first minute. Like, I don't know whether, if this Arsenal game happened directly after the Man United game, after winning 6-1, obviously there's a lot of confidence there. Does Mourinho approach the game the exact same way as the United game? Does he put pressure? Yeah. Does he press from the front? But
he did, because it was West Ham next, and we went out and we tore them apart. And I think at the time, no matter, unless it was maybe, we'll say, Chelsea, City, or Liverpool, I think that next game, if it was any of the other 16 teams in the league, that's how we want to set up, even if it was Arsenal. But I think what a big thing for us this year has been, we're missing the third part of the front three. Like, Son has been unbelievable. Keane has been unbelievable. But we haven't had that third player in the front three to be as prolific. You look at it is, but you look at, like, say, like the big teams in the Premier League, and you look and say, like, they all, like, say City, Liverpool, and even to some extent Chelsea are. they have their front three, and each one of them like is strong and that. But like we're intermittent in the third. It's like Son and Kane nailed down the first two names on the team sheet, but Mourinho has toyed with Lucas, energy, work rate, covering the fullback, really really good. End product, not really there. Lamela, shithouse, dogged. But
Injured.
again, yeah, but again, like not prolific, but gets big goals. Bergwijn, I've not seen from Bergwijn like what I expected from him. Like when he came onto the scene, he scored against City last season, unbelievable. Against United, he turned the United defense inside out, and that's the runs. Those were the runs that I was expecting to see from him. But I think he's bulked up, like muscle wise. You know, he's very like he's up top. He's very very much broader than he was when he came first.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's had an effect on his turn of pace or something. But he's not as quick as he was.
Yeah.
But then Bale, I'm still part of the side that will say he still hasn't had enough ball, and consecutively, like as Mourinho alluded to during the week, where he said he needs to get to the point where he's able to play 3 games in a week. Do you know? He's not there just yet. He's still, you can see when he's on the ball, like in his head, he's sharp, but it's just not there in his legs just yet. But I don't think it's gone. I think it's just lying dormant.
He didn't play football for so long at Madrid, though. Like you have to remember, Gareth Bale was left out in the cold. Now I know it's not cold in Madrid, like, but you know the saying, like, it's.
Yeah,
he was there for months on end, not playing football, and like Gareth Bale is a quality player. Like even as neutral, I'll say that like he's a fantastic footballer. But like I think as Mourinho's right, like he's still not at a stage where he can play 3 games in a week because he's been out of football for so long at a competitive level. Yeah. And like La Liga is a good league, but like the Premier League is the fastest paced league in the world. And to go from basically nothing back to the Premier League after virtually nearly 12 months out, that's a long time for anyone at any level. So like I think it will take some time. But look, as we see with December, there's a lot of football there to be played in this month alone for him to get that match fitness and match sharpness back. I think he will see the Gareth Bale more predominantly in the Tottenham team in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, I believe so, Keane. I agree. I think they set a target of maybe like say up to Christmas to get him up to speed. And I think where Bale will come into it to making the difference is in the fixtures after Christmas. Because we're hopefully going to be in 2, if not 3 cup competitions still. And I think that's where someone like Bale is going to come into it. So I think you'll see him get more minutes around Christmas. With the fixture congestion, it's inevitable that he will anyway. But I think the tactic all along was giving him up until Christmas to get fit. And then from there on out, then we'll see him feature a bit more.
Yeah, 100%. And just coming on to like Mourinho and kind of Arteta, kind of the both managers, obviously they both had kind of different kind of influences kind of over the team. Like in terms of Jose Mourinho, like Jamie, I'm going to come to you first. We've seen kind of Jose give Spurs kind of more ruthlessness that they had in previous years. Now under Pochettino, they played kind of really pretty football and they did kind of play like really expansively, but they always kind of lacked that kind of edge. Whereas I think Mourinho has after given Spurs that little bit of nastiness to them. You know, do you think like that was needed? How do you feel kind of how Jose is kind of done in terms of helping you overall in your overall game?
I think as Steve alluded to a couple of months back, it was very, very hard to judge him on last season and what happened. So from this year so far, I think he has definitely benefited from the signings that we've got. I think he brought in players that potentially weren't part of Spurs' recruitment policy previously. And what he is doing now is he's bringing in players like Højbjerg, Reguilon, all players that seem to have real leadership skills and want to work for the team. that weren't there under Pochettino. So I think from that side of things, I wouldn't say he's been lucky in terms of the recruitment policy, but he's had a hand within it. And with that recruitment that we have brought into the side, he has been able to implement that ruthlessness that you're talking about, Keane, that wasn't there under Pochettino. Look, it's a completely different way of winning games. Look, we're in a really good position currently this season. As Steve said, we're hoping to be in 2 or 3 cup competitions after Christmas. Hoping to be in the top 4 anyway after Christmas. I'm still not convinced of like just being in number 1 place from now until the end of the season. That's not realistic. But he's definitely added in game management to us that before I think we felt like we were superior to other teams in certain games when we weren't. Maybe there was a bit of ego by Pochettino that he could play the bigger teams and beat them the way that we played when that wasn't the case. But Mourinho has brought everyone back to earth and said, look, some of the players in the squad aren't good enough. The style we played previously wasn't good enough in the big games, and I'm going to win you points in the big games. And I think that's been a difference. Our top 4 record with Pochettino was never great, to be honest. It was never great. But since Mourinho's come in, it's been much healthier. We've beaten United, we've beaten City twice, we've beaten Arsenal. Liverpool bet us last season, but it was a 1-0 game, and we should have won that game in the second half.
You went down to 10 men, didn't you, that day as well? Or the Liverpool went down to 10 men? One team went down to 10 men that day,
I'm not too sure. It was in January anyway, or January or February last year. And we had, I think Lo Celso missed the chance really late on, and we had a handful of other chances. We actually played them off the park in the second half. So I think the big difference, Keane, is our top 4, top 6 games. But the only question mark I still have, and I don't know if Steve agrees with this, is against the smaller teams, to say. I still think this season, like against West Brom, Burnley, like those games were like on the balance. Like,
low block.
Like, yeah, it is that, like, and look, a lot of teams struggle with that. Like, let's not fool ourselves. I mean, them games are very, very close. But it's like
I'll hold my hands up and say I agree with that.
Block. Yeah,
but like but I agree. Like, we struggled under Pochettino with those games as well a lot.
We did. Yeah,
thinking back to games against Brighton, was a Crystal Palace. Ericsson scored from like 25 yards, left footer, in like 80 something minutes.
And Swansea too. Swansea 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
Fulham, I think, as well, a couple of years ago. Winks got the late one.
Do you know what I mean? As well. Yeah. But there's still a question mark under Pochettino and under Mourinho of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's still something that we do miss, and I don't know how we resolve that. Like, I know people say that,
but I think
the Lo Celso and Ndombele experiment, but
I think there's something there amongst. I think there's something there amongst the players we have. I'm not saying the players we have aren't like up to it, but I think we're missing that player that picks the lock. Now, like again, like in Ndombele, he break the lines of the low blocks. But I think the flip side of it is that we only tend to go and try and do that late in the game, and Ndombele is never there late in the game because he's 65 minute player. So what do we do? But I think he's essential to have in there for that 65 minutes rather than bringing him on for the last 30. So it's hard to as much as we've all dreamed over the Højbjerg, Lo Celso, Ndombele midfield, it's not going to work, I think. I think Moussa Sissoko, like the other night, proved that like he's essential. Whether it's like just his enthusiasm and energy to break things up, like, I mean, he just runs and runs and runs and covers so much. Like, you know, I think with Gio, he's not as kind of like, I don't know, he's not as no frills as Sissoko. Sissoko knows his limits, so he stays within that and just does what he does and does it well, you know.
Yeah, and Steve, I'm just going to come to you obviously with the same kind of question, like with regards to how do you overall feel about kind of Mourinho's kind of different, kind of what he's given to Tottenham, like because it was an appointment at the time that did divide opinion. Like, are you still like are you happy in the Mourinho
Yeah,
camp kind of at the moment?
yeah, absolutely. I again, like, it's absolutely not a case of like I'm going to disrespect Pochettino in any way and saying like I'm happy he's gone. But I like, as I've said it before, I like the ambition the club showed in going for a Mourinho, and not trying to go for we'll say the next like up and coming, say, like European manager or whatever, they're very, very clear in their ambition and what they want, by an appointment like Mourinho. Then there was comments during the week I seen on Twitter from Daniel Levy, where he was on about the transfer window and how he basically said that Mourinho set out clear targets and clear player types that he wanted, which made it easy for them to achieve. I'm not sure whether that was a little dig at Pochettino, with
I think it was.
the room.
I think it was.
Yeah. With the rumors of how he turned his nose up at some players who, like, Spurs fans would have absolutely loved to have had in the squad. But I'm absolutely on board with the Mourinho thing. I've always been an admirer of him. When he was at Chelsea, like, I always kind of would have been of the mindset of, geez, I'd love if we had someone like Mourinho at Spurs, and I think we tried it with the AVB project. It didn't work out, obviously. I think it could have, if he was maybe given a little bit more time. But, like, I mean, you have to remember, like, AVB, like, his last game was against Liverpool. I was at it. We lost 5-0 at home. Like, Kyle Naughton played left back that day. Like,
I remember that game.
That's what AVB had to deal with. So, like, what was he ever going to achieve with Kyle Naughton, Tom Huddleston? Like, but we've gone this time for the same kind of appointment, by putting in Mourinho. Obviously, far, far more highly decorated manager. But this time around, I think Levy has realised, okay, we need to get a strong squad in here. And he's listened to Mourinho. And Mourinho's convinced him to do that, I think, by not going out there and say, okay, I want, like, say, like the Guardiola approach of, like, I want this £50 million player and this £50 million player. He's gone, okay, Højbjerg, Doherty, Joe Hart's free, Gareth Bale on loan. As much as I think Bale was actually a Levy dream.
That was a Levy signing. I think that was more of a Levy sign.
I don't think Mourinho wanted Bale at all. But, like, obviously he's there. He will absolutely, like, make use of him. But Mourinho, I don't know. He just seems a lot more settled with Spurs. I think it suits him because there isn't as much pressure on him as there would have been to achieve at other clubs. He's obviously being signed to win something. I mean, that's like inevitable, or that's undeniable. However, he doesn't have the, like, you have to go and win a Champions League, you have to go and win the Premier League pressure on him that he would have had at Chelsea, that he would have had at Manchester United. So, and I think because of that, I think he will thrive a little bit more. And I think the players are buying into what he has to offer more, because there aren't as many egos there at Spurs. And he even said himself the other night, there's one or two players in the team the other night that think they're better than that level. So I think he has a clear vision of who he doesn't want there in January. And I think Levy will listen to him again. I think we dip into the market again in January, just to add that little bit more of steel and resolute to the back line.
Yeah, look, it's interesting to see kind of where you go, because obviously, like, you're on a kind of rich train of form at the moment, and like, obviously the Europa League and all that will be after Christmas again. The fixture list will be congested. If you can add a few more players, I think it won't hinder your kind of hopes of Champions League next season. You have two routes there, the Europa League and obviously top four as well. I know you're kind of downplaying kind of title talk at the moment because obviously of the stage of the season that it is. But, like, with the way the Premier League season is going and with these exceptional circumstances, I think the title race is open this year. But William, you're like coming to Arsenal. Obviously, Mikel Arteta in the last kind of couple of weeks is a manager within your fan base that is after dividing it, and it seems kind of the same old Arsenal fans where it's same happened under Wenger, same happened under Unai Emery. The fan base seems to be divided, and they seem to want to go with a new direction. Are you in that camp of give Arteta time, even though you're mid-table at the moment, and it seems like you might be in a bit of trouble, or are you looking elsewhere for a different manager? Like what camp are you in at the moment?
I'm still Arteta in. I don't believe it's the managers. It's definitely the players. I know there is some problems with his tactics in the sense that they were being a bit too negative, and the mix of trying to play the wingers as wingers to hug the touchline, and then our wing backs to try and be more inverted. When I feel it should be the other way around, given that our wing backs are pretty solid at crossing and having the likes of when Oba was playing there basically on the touchline and Saka basically hugging the touchline. And on the other side, you have Willian, and if it was like Pepe and them hugging the touchline, it's too wide, and then you have not enough players in the middle. But honestly, it's a mix of the players not performing. They've got in their own heads for some reason or somehow. I believe I saw everyone's favourite Arsenal fan, Piers Morgan, say that it was like after beating United, we just pressed the self-destruct button. And it actually was a great analogy, because after that, we just seemed to not be able to play the same way that we were. We just became too negative. We started just passing sideways and backwards, have no penetration. Two to the side, we'll throw the odd cross in, and we'll have the odd chance from the cross that then the strikers aren't taking their one chance given. And like, our goalkeeper had more touches than Aubameyang did against fucking Wolves there the other last Sunday, and there's just no service to him, and it's real nightmare. But I'm still under the Arteta in. I think, given time, given the right resources, he'll be still a good manager. I don't see who we get if we take him out straight away. You could argue Poch, but he won't come to us after managing Tottenham. Then the links are Sarri. That doesn't get me excited.
Hey, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might be out of a job soon. You might have a good future there.
I actually have a theory about Arteta.
Go on.
I think if Arteta would be better supported if the likes of Aubameyang, all the kind of Willian, all Ozil, all them gone out of the club completely. I think he would work way better with the younger players coming through at Arsenal. I think his issue actually is egos in that club. That's his biggest issue, and it's behavioural issues in the background. That is the problem on field. I think he'd be more supported by younger players that would feed into his philosophy to what he wants to do, and that's the reason why the Europa League is going better for you. It's because of the fact that he has players playing on a Thursday night, even to lesser teams, but are feeding into what he wants. And they're actually buzzing off of that. The lads that we don't want that.
Yeah, no.
I was very surprised to see
Arsenal
make the same mistake with Aubameyang contract, like they did with Ozil. I was very, very surprised with that. I understand, I suppose, like the value that Aubameyang had to ye, if you look back, we'll say, emotionally over the last couple of seasons and that. But I still think, like, the money that you've guaranteed him for the next couple of years would have been far better spent elsewhere, and allowing him to go getting your money for him that you would have. I don't think he's down to tools or anything like that. I think I don't think he's down to tools. But I definitely think like he has dropped off mentally. I think he's come a little bit complacent or whatever. I don't think he has faith in Arteta. And I think Aubameyang strikes me as the kind of guy that when things aren't going well at a club level, like as a captain, I don't think he's the most influential guy to
No,
drive everybody
I
to
don't.
get
I
back on
agree.
top.
I
And that's
don't
why
think he should be captain. I
yeah.
definitely don't think he should be captain. But
Who should be
he was
captain?
given that
Who-
under.
Which your last captain took his fingers up at the fans.
I mean,
So
yeah. Granted, Xhaka can go now as well. I'm
I think give it to
I'm
Gabriel.
done with him.
I'm going to pose that question to you now. William. Who should be captain of Arsenal right now, in your opinion?
You can't really give it to Gabriel because he's just there at the club. I definitely
Why
wouldn't
not?
give it to one of our
United
other.
give it to Maguire.
Why not?
I think you can give it to Gabriel all
I
day
still
long.
don't.
I think he is.
I'd give it to Kieran Tierney.
No.
Why?
Kieran Tierney for me. I just feel like he's got more of a fighting spirit. He's got a warrior spirit in him, and I feel like he would drag the team a bit more. You even see after the Leeds game in terms of fighting when you've got fucking Xhaka putting his arm around Alioski, who obviously got headbutt by Pepe, and it's like this. Whereas at least Tierney wanted to back up his teammate.
Look, there's a big thing in football about concussions now. I mean, like you were saying, if he was all right.
I don't think Leno is a terrible shout for a club captain. I think over the last couple of seasons, Leno has been the reason that you haven't been an absolute shambles altogether. He's saved you from some incredibly, I think, embarrassing results that you would have had. Some of the saves he's pulled off, like look, even if he's an Arsenal player, but I'll still be part of the goalkeepers union. I say that like he's been incredible. Some of the saves he's made are absolutely like out of this world. So I think,
and in regards to Leno, it really pisses me off how some of the Arsenal fans are getting on his back just because Martinez did great for ages. It's like they see the one mistake of, oh, Leno's terrible, oh, he's terrible, we should have kept Martinez. And it's like, yeah, Martinez has done well, but he's made mistakes as well, as you've seen.
It's the life of a goalkeeper.
And Leno has kept
Nobody remembers the stuff you've done well as a keeper. If I asked everybody I played with for the last 25 years about what do they remember about games we played in, I'll guarantee you it's the ones that where I might have let one go over my head or might have spilled something. They won't remember the saves I made. Or that's all I remember the saves I made.
Deep scars there,
but yeah, look. Every other club, the top goalkeeper, like Alisson, like is getting heavily criticised sometimes this season with some of the mistakes he have to make. David De Gea got criticised. Petr Cech towards the end of his time at Arsenal, he was also getting criticised. It's just the life of a goalkeeper. It really is, you know, and it's just.
And then Lloris is doing the opposite now.
Yeah, but like last season, Steve, criticised.
I honestly feel though also in regards to Leno, like give him about a few more seasons, he'll end up replacing Neuer with Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
That's where I see it. So that's why if you give him the captaincy for a little bit, and then it's going to be a big money move to Bayern Munich, it's got that whole outlook on it as Arsenal again. That's just where I feel with that.
Yeah, like that is quite possible. Like, you know, the Germans, like they will come in. Like they're always like, I suppose, Bayern Munich and teams like that, they're always very askew in terms of who they get in the goalkeeping department. So you mightn't be too wrong there, William. You know, Leno has done good. I remember the game we went to Old Trafford. It popped up in my Snapchat memories actually this morning, and you know, when we went over to the draw. And Leno that day pulled off great saves. And it was a contrast because I took a snap at David De Gea saying best goalkeeper in the world, which he was at the moment. And I remember Steve commented on the picture on Facebook saying the irony, like, but David De Gea's mistake started in that game for United and it went on a downward spiral since. And it's the same thing, like goalkeepers, there's a lot of short-termism in football, like, do you know what I mean? In terms of that position. Like, people are very quick to jump on a goalkeeper and they make a mistake or two. So, like,
look, Leno don't remember the fact that he was your player of the season for how many years?
5 or 6 years. Like, look, at the end of the day, like, he's a top goalkeeper still. But as I said, short-termism in football is there, like, you know, and we like, I suppose in the world of social media, we can't get out of that, and that's going to continue to be the trend. Whether it's a goalkeeper, midfielder, striker, whatever it may be, that's always going to be there. And I think sometimes as fans, I can hold my hands up and say, like, sometimes we're a bit too harsh on certain players, and we're all guilty of it. It happens from time to time. And I think, like, William hit the nail on the head there. Like, there's some of the criticism that Leno has received, and I've seen it. Like, it's a bit uncalled for. But look, that's the beauty of football as
Let's
well.
hope he has a clanger tomorrow now.
Hey,
Yeah.
look, there's that one. Yeah, by Joe Hart.
We never have that luck with keepers. Like, like any game that we go into, if there's some like mad stat that like the team haven't done this in so long or that in so long, it's like the Dr. Tottenham thing comes along.
Yeah.
And there's like, I think that's why I'm so fearful for tomorrow. Is like, just with like, when we have like, oh, Spurs have the chance to do this now, and like, you know, and like you're saying that it's like, okay, so what do we have? Oh, a fixture that everyone thinks that we're going to win. You know,
Yeah, we're not good as favourites.
we're not at all. But I don't know. I think we will come out on top tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to be the walk in the park that some people are saying.
Yeah, and there's a comment just came in there and says, with Arsenal, you have to blame the board. Remember, Wenger had a degree in economics. The board seen him as successful in terms of transfers and youth policy. The board want profit, not big results. Yeah, look, again, William, that's something that you've been kind of vocal about recently as well, like in terms of
I was.
Every club wants
But
that.
I'm gonna argue our last two transfer windows, you're gonna say, are pretty successful with the people that we brought in some of them. Like, I mean, you look at Gabriel, you look at Tierney. Leno was pretty much new signing only a few seasons ago. When he came in, he was successful. Ceballos has been poor. Willian has been poor. The over new contract was something we all had clamoured for. So it was good.
There's a signing in there you're kind of forgetting, I think, William.
Which one? Go for it.
There's a certain 70 million odd signing.
I'm gonna say he has potential for the future. I'd want to loan him personally out, which is annoying for 70 million. I think 70 million. Yes, fancy.
You have to make it in Champions League. You have to make it in Champions League.
Yeah.
You have to.
No, I know that we've overpaid the odds for him, but I do think,
I don't know if
like every time, it annoys me. He's literally what annoys me. He plays so well in the Europa League. Like, he's been one of the best players in, like, the team of the Europa League so far. Not in FIFA, in, like, Score Saver, a great app that we use to keep our scores. He's in there. He's in there. And he takes on loads of people. He actually moves forward. He doesn't get in his head. As soon as it comes to the Premier League, he gets his one chance, and he uses his head against Alioski's head.
I'll give you a prime example of Nicolas Pepe here. I'll compare him to another player who was in the Premier League who came for a sizable price tag. Memphis Depay, when he was at Man United, he was unbelievable in the Europa League. He was fucking deadly, ripping Midtjylland and fucking Anderlecht and all them little teams around. Then he came to the Premier League, Jenny. He looked like fucking Gabriel Overhand. Like, do you know what I mean? He was absolutely shocking. Do you
look at him now again.
I think Pepe.
Yeah, but it's irritating because he has the odd time that he does all right in the Premier League. It's just he needs to get the consistency into him. Like, I mean, he went to Old Trafford and
70 million.
I know that's the irritating is how much we pay.
£70 million on a player. That player needs to come in and light the place up. You don't spend 70 million pounds on a player to see glimmers of a successful player. That has to be instant success. That's why I think even look in Ndombele, I think Spurs fans we remember the Ndombele say that destroy City in the Champions League for Lyon, and then I was at the very first game he played, the Villa game where we bet him 3-1. He scored a screamer from outside the box. But we didn't really get what we wanted. But I will say, when you're saying about the glimmers of there was far more you could see from Ndombele in the games he played in than what anyone has seen from Pepe. I think to be sat there saying that you have hopes for him for the future is what you would say if you just spent 25 million or 30 million on a player, not 70. But Jamie, is there an Arsenal player you'd have in the Spurs team?
Well, Gabriel. You need that left-sided left-footed centre back, who's actually great from aerial duels.
Honest to God, Gabriel is the only player I would say in the Arsenal squad that I would have at Spurs.
And
You
that's
see,
the
it
reason
depends.
I'm
If
saying
it's coming,
I know what you're saying
like I
about them.
wouldn't put him in your squad, but I do personally rate Bellerin this season because he's even gotten more interceptions and more tackles than Gabriel and has created the most amount of chances in our squad. But that there shows the problem with our midfield. But given you have two good right backs, like you wouldn't take him. It's kind of that one where I say, yeah, he's a good player, but Arsenal fans hate him because of how shit he's been the last few years. So they're looking at the past years, and one single mistake you'll make, and it's probably his defensive weaknesses, even though he's gotten a lot better at that this season so far. I mean, he got called back into the Spain squad. Yeah, well, so is Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I know there's still a big difference in quality in terms of Trent's probably got the best crosses, and Liverpool at least have the centre backs behind him. I'm going to argue that you look down. I'll use the Leeds game for example, where they were getting more joy down Bellerin's side. They weren't attacking Tierney's side, and there was not much difference between Tierney and Bellerin. I felt only difference was they were going more down Bellerin's side because of Rob Holding was behind him as the right-sided centre back, who is considerably way worse than Gabriel. When they were looking at Tierney, they're like, okay, you're a difficult-ish player, but Gabriel's behind him, and it's like, okay, you've got two. There, you see the weakness in the right side, the centre back. If you got someone more solid, then I feel Bellerin would shine more. But they're able to use the weaknesses there.
But I think that's another thing there. Like, I mean, look, Spurs, so we're still kind of searching for that top level, elite level centre back. Like we have, like Eric Dyer has been great, and I've fully backed Eric Dyer all along. He has been very, very good. Alderweireld, again, very, very good. The two of them, I think, I can't think of another centre back pairing who have such lovely diagonal pings. And that's, I think that is an awful lot of the thinking behind playing them. I think they suit Mourinho's style of wanting to counter, get the centre halves on the ball. Two of them are incredibly accurate with their long passes. Sanchez, I'm not a fan. Like, if you think back to the time when, like, you'd heard nothing about him, that there was no hype about him. Like, you see the hype about other centre halves. They're like,
and I think that's where everyone kind of
and was targeted by Mourinho as the weakness when they played them.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I remember he had Rashford on him, and it was just bomb everything over the top. Like that's what it was.
We spent at that time £40 million was a huge amount to pay on a centre half then, especially then for somebody who wasn't known really other than that. Like he didn't have like the likes of like the hype around like Upamecano, for example. That's the kind of player when you hear the likes say like 40 million on him. Jesus, yeah, so we expected huge things. I get that he's still young for a centre half, but I don't think the Premier League suits him. I think Sanchez. I think Sanchez in La Liga or in the Bundesliga, I think would be phenomenal. I really do think that. The physicality in the Premier League, like he's not able to play against the likes of, say, like a Chris Wood or someone that's going to like boss him around a bit.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that in him.
Steve against Chelsea with Giroud. Giroud actually fucking bullied him last year in the Chelsea game.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Sanchez will be one of the exits for us. I don't think Mourinho's a fan of him anyway. As I said, like he already highlighted the fact that he targeted him in that Europa League final. Who we get though is like, I know the Skriniar rumors are still there, but we desperately need a left-footed centre half. Desperately need.
I think he should have went.
We're so off balance. Yeah, but if we had done like the City link, then we were never going to get him over City. Yeah. Like Tyrone Mings.
Yeah.
I don't know
if Ake is the player we're looking for either. I think we needed someone that's a bit more powerful. I don't know if he has that. He's a bit more kind of like neat and tidy centre back.
Do you know who would have been interesting on the left side of centre back is Pau Torres from Villarreal. He's top quality left back, and he's Spain international, Spanish international as well.
But what we miss is, say, like if you look at, say, for example, Gabriel at Arsenal, Maguire at United, what we've struggled to have is that powerhouse centre half that if a ball is crossed in, he's leaping above everyone and heading it clear. Like I think at the moment, Harry Kane probably has more defensive headed clearances than our centre halves. You look back like that. What like, as much as like he wasn't phenomenal for us, but like Kabul would, if you had thrown a brick wall into that 6-yard box, Yunus Kabul would have jumped up and headed it. Do you know? And that was a lot of how we got out of games. Was just he just headed stuff clear. Didn't matter where, he just headed it clear. Maguire's the same, Gabriel is the same. We just like Sanchez ducks out of headers. Dyer isn't commanding in the air. Toby isn't commanding in the air. Do you know? That's an area I think, especially with a Jose Mourinho defense, I think that we're going to look to strengthen. I think in January.
Yeah, he's someone who does.
What we're saying basically is we need a slab hit. That's what we need.
Yeah, we do.
You can take him in January. Take him in January. Not a bother.
Sound brother.
81 minutes.
That's your club captain you're talking about, Keane.
Hey, Steve. It's not the United show, but you know who I want as club captain. You know who I want as club captain. We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. Bruno
Captain
Freni, yeah, captain. Do you know what? No, do you know what? You've just given me more propaganda to spread on my next show. So if any United fans are watching, the next segment in the show, Captain Stat Pad. Captain Stat Pad. There you go. But
what about Fred the Red? No, as captain.
Sorry, who?
I love it.
Fred the Red. I think he's too busy fucking headbutting players at the moment to be thinking about an arm. But oh no, we won't talk about Fred now. Maybe we might get him fucking in centre half because he seems to like heading things so much. But since we're talking about kind of opposition players and we're talking about kind of both clubs needing players, I want to delve into a combined 11. Because like I suppose both teams, they have their qualities. So I want all four of us here to come up with a combined 11 each. I'm going to actually go first because I have no allegiance to either club. So I'm going to go first. My goalkeeper, because Lloris is potentially out and he's red on fantasy football, I'm going to go with Leno on goal. Just considering the fact on current availability, if Lloris is out, then in that respect, for me, though Leno starts, I like Joe Hart, experienced player, but for me, Leno has to get in there because he has a bit more quality. Right back for me has been the hardest decision. I've been thinking about this all morning. Bellerin has been okay this season. Aurier scored against United. Matt Doherty's Irish, so I'm going to have allegiances to him, no doubt. To be kind of, I suppose, real about it, I think Aurier has probably been the best out of the three, marginally. I think he's been okay. He's been getting up and down the pitch. He was a player originally that Jose didn't fancy, but he seems to be getting more faith from Jose at the moment. So in that regard, I'm going to go Serge Aurier. My two centre-backs, Gabriel is in there. And he's been one of the signings of the season for Arsenal. I think he's been quite solid. Despite Arsenal's place in the table, he's been quite decent. I don't think that's a fair reflection on his quality and what he's actually brought to their defence. In the words of expressions, I'm going to go with Virgil van Dyer as the other centre half. This is a player who I slagged off when I've seen that he was playing centre half. I didn't think that he was good enough to play there, but look, he's actually done reasonably okay there. Like, look, he has to be because Tottenham are fucking top of the table at the moment. So, like, Dyer has done decent there. I'm going to go with a 4-2-3-1 as well. I forgot to say that at the start. I'm going to go with a 4-2-3-1. And so my two holding midfielders, Thomas Partey, he's back this week. So Thomas Partey holding midfield, and the other holding midfielder is Højbjerg. Again, look, Thomas Partey just gets in there because look, his quality is, look, we know how good he is. We've seen in a couple of games he's played for Arsenal that he's been quite good. He's been very good in Arsenal's team. Højbjerg, again, is someone who was flew under the radar in terms of getting praise from everybody. I think because Son and Kane have been so good that everyone has gone on. They've praised Højbjerg. No one has really gone on and said how much of a good job he's done in terms of screening the back four. I think he's actually been a very big part in terms of like how Tottenham have actually had a good defensive record, this season. I think Højbjerg's been a massive, massive part of that. So for me, he gets in there. I'm gone with a front four in that regard. I've gone with a front four. So the first player I have in the front four, Harry Kane's actually number 10. I'm playing Harry Kane, number 10, simply because he's been dropping deep into that role recently. And he's done well, and I think that's where he can end up playing in the future in the Rooney role. So I'm going to go with Harry Kane there. And I'm going to go with Son off the left. Again, look, he's been up there in terms of the best signings, the best players in the league this year. And so, in that regard, I'm going to go home with Son off the left. I'm going to go with Aubameyang up front. And again, I have to get all the best attacking players in there. And off the right, even though he hasn't played much football at all this season, but off the right, I'm going to go with Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale, on his day, one of the best players in the world, and he's just unbelievable. And for me, he gets in there. But that's my team. I think the two holding midfielders give us enough protection for that front four to go up and do all the damage in the world. In that respect. So that's my team, 4-2-3-1, and I'm going to go to the lads just to give their combined 11s there now. So Jamie, fire away, give your combined 11 there.
They'll have to.
Oh, he's gone. He's walking.
It's always.
Go on, let me guess. Gabriel in there and the rest of Tottenham.
It's always going to be the same story when it comes to a Tottenham Arsenal team. It always is. I'm not going to back away from it. I will put my starting 11 in there. So that's mine. That's mine. Maybe
we know that Steve did the same last time.
Maybe you put Gabriel over Alderweireld with a torn groin. Maybe, I don't know. That's the only way.
Pretty much. Yeah. As I said, yes, Gabriel. Yeah, Gabriel is the one player, say, out of that Arsenal team that I would have in the Spurs team. But how can you say that you would replace someone out of the best defense in the league at the moment? So for me, genuinely, the Spurs starting 11 is my combined 11.
Okay.
And it's not a case of because fuck Arsenal, it's that's based on the current group of players. My allegiance to Spurs would always make me sway that way anyway. But if I was to be absolutely honest in my last time when we did the London Derby preview, it was a case of it was just I'm Spurs through and through. I'm not. There's no way I'm having Arsenal players in it at this stage, and I'm based on current form. I don't have to do that because the best 11 out of the two is the Spurs starting 11.
Yeah, that's fair. You're top the table. I suppose there's no room kind of for argument with that. I can understand your view on that. And William, do you have?
What do you think, William? Though, William, genuinely, how many of the Spurs players do you say don't get in that Arsenal 11?
It depends. With all our players fully fit, if given the start one, I think there aren't many. Obviously, with the combined, I've got a few more Arsenal players than I would shoot my shot for, but not necessarily if they were in. Look, I'm going with my combined 11, right? I'm going to put some Arsenal allegiances in there, obviously. But if they were in the Arsenal side, I think they'd give good competition. If I think they were in the Tottenham side, I think they'd give good competition. But do I think Jose would choose them? Probably not. I think Jose's got a good balance in your Tottenham side.
Combined 11 by.
No, but like in the combined 11, so I'll go. I think Leno and Lloris are pretty even. I think Lloris this season's probably been a bit more better. If he's injured, then Leno will come in. So let's go Lloris. If he's injured, then it's Leno in. Right back, I've already pitched my shot saying that I think Bellerin's been one of our best players this season. I can see your argument for Aurier, but I'd choose Bellerin just personally. I think they're very close. I can hear the argument for Aurier. I think they're very similar players. Does he have a better end product? Probably a little bit. He used to have mistakes. He hasn't made as many this season, but I still feel they're in there more than Bellerin's are. Again, Arsenal allegiances is there. I'd put Gabriel in there, and I'd personally put Alderweireld next to him because of Gabriel's left-sided centre back. You need the right-sided centre back. I know Dyer can play in both, but it's just more genuinely suited that way. I personally love Kieran Tierney. While I'm saying that, I will say that Sergio Reguilon has been probably the best left back in the league so far this season. One of. He's been a great signing since he's come, so it looks like Real Madrid will have a good left back next season for 30 million.
No hype about him at all. That's like.
That is surprising because I mean he's given you a chance, even from crosses that you didn't used to have.
Yeah, like I think he has been as effective for us as Robertson was for Liverpool when he blew onto the scene. But like it's just it's gone completely under the radar. I think at Spurs because of I suppose in the same way that Højbjerg's influence has as well. It's all about Son and Kane at the moment.
No doubt.
But I think that Reguilon has been so important to our form in the Premier League. Like we've only for us say we're to be going into game week 11, Spurs having lost only one game in the league so far, and that being the first game of the season. That was a game that we really shouldn't have lost. There haven't been any games I think that we've won that
Reguilon hasn't lost a game yet.
Deserve to win?
He hasn't,
no.
Well then.
I looked him last Sunday, Steve, too. When he was after the game when they were walking off, the first
straight home to the Celso. Yeah,
way over the Celso.
Yeah.
And I said, I was actually there for you, and that just shows.
Yeah,
that
I swear. Reguilon is so. I think he's so enthusiastic and so passionate for the game and for like he's at Spurs now. I don't think he's playing to get himself a move to Real Madrid.
I think he's playing because he loves football.
Yes, exactly.
And he's kind of like Son in a way that he's kind of a likable guy. It's annoying to say that about another.
Like if you follow him on social media and you see him and his missus, the videos they put up and stuff of each other and that, like you put up one during the week of him with his PlayStation 5 and he was getting it and he was like hugging it and that and she was sitting there like sulking about it and he ran off out of the room with it, but I think that he's playing for his love of the game, and I really want him to get a goal so bad. I really last week when he was running through. I thought Lo Celso was going to play him through. I'm so eager for him. Even if he scores against Marine in the FA Cup in January, I don't care. I just want to see him get a goal because he deserves that buzz, for what he's put in.
Yeah, he's a good player. I remember at the start of the summer when I seen United were linked to him. You all seen the group chat. I was fucking delighted. He's a top player. He's a great left back. You see at Seville how good he was in the Europa League last season. He was a fantastic player. So Spurs have a good player in their hands. I hope for your sake Real Madrid don't come calling.
It's a player. It's a signing that I genuinely wouldn't have expected us to make. When we were linked with him and that, I completely wrote it off. The Bale rumors are there for the last 5 years, and every summer I was like, he's coming, it's happening. And then Reguilon, as much sense as it made. I don't know, was it the fact that it made too much sense that we would sign him? That I was like, that's not going to happen. No way, you know. And then like we signed him, and I was like, hey, that's a good boy. You know, that's the kind of player that we were looking to sign for the last couple of years. I didn't really fulfill it, you know, like our.
How many guys had Danny Rose there? Danny Rose was good for a certain length of time.
You got an assist for the other 23s during the week, but.
We're just gone over an hour and 5 minutes of the show, so I just want to call.
I may as well. Just let me finish the last few people in it, because I had the back foot. Then we got into a love fest for fucking Regulon, for fuck's sake. So in midfield, I'll have 4-2-3-1. So I'll have Højbjerg next to Partey, and then the 3 I'd have Son. I'd put Harry Kane in the 10. I'd put in the right midfield, I'd put Bukayo Saka, personally, because I still think he's.
I was waiting for you to say Pepe.
No, Bukayo Saka is probably a better talent, which is annoying because we paid fucking 70 million for Pepe, which is again something you shouldn't be saying. And Saka came through our academy, but then that's saying give lads in the academy chances, and you might actually be surprised. It's annoying when they don't do it, especially when you've got some talent in there. And then up top, I'll have Aubameyang, because I think if he's got service from Kane, Son, like, he will score goals.
I think in fairness to William too, I think Mourinho would play Højbjerg and Partey in the same midfield.
I think the two of them together would be solid, because Højbjerg is a rough house and Partey is a bit of a rough house that has flair in him.
Yeah, go box to box.
I think he would. And then Ndombele ahead of him then.
Yeah,
and then you think Kane up top. That's the sub.
Like in Ndombele, I think he's moved to more of like between an 8 and 10.
That's what he is.
Yeah, like look where he was for that ball for Son for the goal against City. I still love the way he just stroked it, like pitching just off the edge of the green. He just like stroked it, a little hop on his standing foot. He knew exactly what he was doing there. But
podcast. We all love a good hop on this podcast, don't we, William?
I think, Keane, I think it's time to tell William what we're going to say to him.
Well, I think you're going
to
leave that to you.
If Arsenal lose tomorrow, if they lose, and if it's a big part, going into next Sunday's fixture at 7:30 on a Sunday evening, they will be 3 points off relegation. Potentially.
I know.
That's stands though. If you look at the form table in the last 5 games, Arsenal are 16th.
I thought we'd be lower.
That's crazy.
16th.
When you think about that, that's absolute crazy. But look, I'm just going to come to score predictions, lads. Actually, sorry, no. I'm going to come to starting 11 predictions. Sorry, my head is messed. I'm blind sick this morning, but in terms of starting 11 predictions, William, I'm going to come to you first. Do you think Arteta is going to go back to the 5 at the back, or are you going to stick with the 4-3-3?
There was stages I wanted him to, but I think he'll play more like a 4-2-3-1. There's a team I want to see, and there's a team I think I'll see.
He has to play back 5 against us. He has to.
I understand it, but right in the 4-2, I think it's definitely going to be he's going for the new system, and he's not going to go back to the back 5. I just don't see it happening. I think you're going to see Leno in goal, right back Bellerin, centre backs. I'm going to say still Holding and Gabriel. I don't think Mari is fit enough. He came on for his first game since the City won and did quite well but then again, it's against Rapid Vienna, but I don't think he puts him in for the North London derby. Plus Holding is English, so at least he knows full on about the North London derby. Left back, then Kieran Tierney. Now, midfield is where it differs between what I think will happen and what I want to happen. I'm going off the premise that Partey's still injured. because I don't think
Yeah.
he's fit enough. I know he was involved in training, but I still don't think he's properly back. So if that's true, then I would definitely start El Nene, because I think his work rate in general will you'll have to try and break up their midfield, and you'll have to have someone that's
Yeah,
willing to run
you
around,
need
use
many
all
in
his
there.
energy. And I don't, honestly, if it's down to all of them, I'd still just start Willock ahead of Granit Xhaka and Danny Ceballos this season. I think they've both been absolutely dreadful in the Premier League and have offered nothing. I know Ceballos is supposed to offer us things going forward, but he just doesn't. And I'd start the youngster there with then in the 3, so I'd have Saka, I'd put Lacazette in the 10, playing just behind Aubameyang, because I think I know it was only the Europa League, but he seemed to just get back to a bit of momentum, and you'd hope that will push him on. And if he's a bit more off,
He
he'll
played
get a
well
little
tonight.
bit more of the ball, and he's good at holding up the ball. He's got good passing range. I feel like it suits him more, and if he gets the chance, he can shoot from far out. And he's always won. I mean, look at the game against Tottenham last season. He scored a screamer from outside the box. So I think this game kind of suits him. And then on the right, I'd put Reece Nelson, but I'm not fully keen on Reece Nelson because of his end product. But then I understand the Willian argument as well in terms of tracking back. He'd be on Son's side. So then El Nene could focus more so on Ndombele. So, but I expect to see Xhaka and Ceballos.
Yeah, so the status quo just comes back, like, do you know what I mean? And Steve, you're starting 11. I know you're kind of vocal saying you'd like to see Ndombele start. Does he stay in the team for you? Does Bale start this weekend? Who's in there for you?
Yeah, so look, I'm going to go in the hope that we don't have the injuries that are rumored, and like I think like it's going to be Aurier. I think yes, I know Matt Doherty isn't a right back; he's a right wing back. But I think Doherty coming into the squad has caused Aurier to step it up a gear. He's been brilliant. He gets a very, very bad rap. He wasn't as bad as what was kind of portrayed, but I think he's done very, very well for us. I think it's Dyer and Alderweireld, and then Reguilon left back, Højbjerg and Dominic Sissoko, Son, Kane, and I do think Bale starts against Arsenal.
Big show. No better game. I suppose, an impact.
Yeah, I think a lot of it will ride the fact that Bale knows what a North London derby means. We've a lot of players in there that would be like new to the squad, or yes, they've been in the squad for a couple of years, but still they're not like. Sure, I say like Spurs isn't like a part of their DNA, you know, and that's not. I don't mean that in a disrespectful manner to them, that they don't care. Like say, if I just say, for example, like Aurier, for example, like he'll be fired up to play, yes, but I don't feel like the North London derby is what it should feel like. I think it'll be his first one, but I think like Højbjerg will probably be like absolutely all guns blazing for this. Like I think he's Spurs through and through already. You know, he's just that battling mentality. He will not want to lose a derby. But I think Bale, having been in the Premier League for so many years, having played in so many North London derbies, and I think if there's a game where he's really going to want to prove himself, it'll be Spurs and Arsenal. And I genuinely think if he plays tomorrow, he scores tomorrow.
Yes, that's not a bad shout at all. I think Bale, did he score in his last North London derby?
Yeah, so if I see him in the starting 11 tomorrow, I will be putting money on him to score anytime.
Jamie, do you have any different opinion to your starting 11 than Steve, or are you?
No, I don't. Yeah, I see it being the very same. I think that Bale will start ahead of Bergwijn for the reason of I don't think Mourinho will be as focused on the defensive side tomorrow. Obviously, he'll be focused on it, but I think Bergwijn starts when he wants work rate deep, and I think that Bale will play because of the fact of the threat going forward. I think that's
I also exactly your point there, Jamie. Like he would play Bergwijn when he needs that work rate, and I don't expect we will need that work rate against Arsenal, and that's not. I'm not saying that from a point of view of saying that because Arsenal aren't that good. I'm saying because that's not their style of play. So we won't need all that effort, say pressing them up high in that, because they will probably have a low defensive line. So I think that's where we will have Bale, and then I think later in the game then to bring in the work rate on top of hopefully some tired Arsenal legs. But I definitely think, as I said, go on.
I think Vinicius might have a role to play tomorrow as well.
So someone interestingly enough put up on Twitter this morning that they think the reason why Keane and Vinicius weren't in the squad on Thursday is because he was saving both of them for tomorrow, and he thinks he might go and do like a 4-4-2, because if you remember against Arsenal after lockdown, he went 4-4-2, had Son up top. Obviously it's a different Arsenal backline now, but I do think that if we went 4-4-2 tomorrow, I would absolutely love it. I would absolutely love that. And I think that would make me a lot more relaxed in that hour before kickoff if I see the starting 11 and it's a 4-4-2 with Vinicius and Kane up top.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
and probably then I think the midfield four would most likely be a diamond then, if anything. But I don't see Mourinho going that much like off his playbook tomorrow. But I didn't see it either the last time we played Arsenal, and he went out and did the 4-4-2. So
yeah. I think he might go 4-4-2 tomorrow. But yeah.
It's not a bad shout considering if Arsenal go 3 at the back, you have them two strikers to press. If Arsenal try to play from the back, especially Gabriel, you have them two lads up at the press, so it gives a less option, for Arsenal play down them channels. So
I don't see the advantage to a 4. Yeah, I don't see the advantage for Arsenal in going with the 4-3-3 against Spurs.
I think they get picked up. 3-3.
I think if they go 4-3-3, unless they do something similar to the way Pochettino had at Spurs, where Dyer was a central defensive midfielder who was practically a centre back. But unless they do something like that.
They can maybe do that with a Granit Xhaka, maybe, but even that. But could you trust them? That's the thing. I think that's
what though we were trying in the Europa League is the fact that we were playing the 4, kind of like the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1, similar enough. But El Nene was just dropping in between the two of them the whole time.
I keep forgetting about him as well. Actually, yeah.
I think he has to start for us. I think he brings it's just a work rate out of him that the rest don't have. It's like an invisible type, almost like passion. Some people call it like passion merchant, even though he's not a passion merchant. The Egyptian Pirlo,
Oh my Christ. Anyway, right. So on that note, since the Egyptian Pirlo is going to be playing tomorrow, and your spirit, as you called them, we're going to go with score predictions. Steve, I'm going to come to you first. What's your prediction for tomorrow?
Arsenal definitely score. I think there'll be a bit of nervousness around the start of the game for Spurs, and I can actually see Arsenal scoring in the first 15 minutes. And then I think we do then kind of take on the game and take control of it. 2-1 or 3-1, but probably 2-1, because I think if we go ahead, I think Mourinho will just try and close it up a little bit, and then like against City, we had the one goal, we protected that one goal to the death. I think the second goal we got against City wasn't something that Mourinho was looking to get, but just got an opportunity struck. So I think if we get a 2-goal lead, it won't be from a case of pushing for a second goal. I think it will be a case of Arsenal have maybe pushed too hard to try and equalise, but I think 2-1.
Jamie?
and Bale to score.
To be honest, everything that Steve said was what I was going to say. I thought that Arsenal would get an early goal, and I think we win. I'd like to say 3-1, but 2-1 seems to be the most common result in these games.
William, are you optimistic?
Yeah, screw it. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say, though, we're going to go 1-0 down around the 30-something minute, go 1-0 down at half-time and claw it back to a 2-1 win. Because whoever scores first in the North London derby loses.
Never wins.
And it's something we kind of nearly all said. It's just, throughout history, you score that first goal, you're like, fuck.
You can't really celebrate it.
Will be tough.
It's absolutely not going to be this walkover. It's not. It's this tomorrow isn't first against 14th.
It's not gonna, but it's not gonna be pretty to watch either. I'm gonna warn that to the neutrals. It's not gonna be pretty.
Yeah, I think it's going to be too like Jose, the pragmatist, and Arteta trying not to lose. And trying to, but I don't mean that as an insult at all.
No, I know.
I mean he's away to Spurs, and it's not just because we're top of the table or whatever. I haven't mentioned that once in this whole podcast because we're flattering to deceive. I think a little as well.
Yeah.
As Jamie said at the very, very beginning, 4 points from the City and Chelsea games, I think, was probably always the aim, but did we expect it? Probably not. I think if we'd gotten the way out of those games without a loss, we would have been happy. So I think we're 2 points ahead of where we should have been. Not where we should have been, where we might have thought we'd been in this run of fixtures. So the Arsenal game is the one out of them all that you don't want to lose. And it just worries me that we've beaten City and drawn against Chelsea. So, but it's in terms of the season and in terms of the impact on the season, if we did lose tomorrow, I don't think it would have a massive bearing. But it would be the one that would be unbearable.
I was going to say there, Steve, that if we lose tomorrow, our top 6 record will be broken. But Arsenal are 14, so that doesn't really count, does it?
Yeah. But no, if you look back over the last couple of years, I mean, we say, it's in the last 5 years, we've only lost 2 North London derbies.
And they were both at the Emirates.
Yeah, and even but but one of the 4-2, we were awful that day. We were awful that day. But then we turned around 2 weeks later then and beat you 2-0 at the Emirates in the League Cup.
Dele Alli had a wonder game.
That Dele Alli, that goal, that Gazzaniga's ball up to Keane, for Keane to control a goal kick onto his chest on the halfway line and just turn around and dink it over the top. That was one of the most underrated goals in football in the last 5 years. It just if that were Salah, for example, that did that, they'd still be showing replays of it. But I suppose, look, I haven't grown up. I haven't followed Spurs since the early 90s. I've seen 30 years of Spurs and Arsenal. When I first can remember following Spurs, Arsenal weren't long off the back of having won the league.
89.
89. And then my earliest memories were the FA Cup in 91. I can the Gaza free kick in the semi-final. That's I always remember Spurs being okay, well, we do well against Arsenal in cups. And Arsenal were always the better team in the league, and then having to see Arsenal win the Premier League, to see the invincible season. That, do you know what I mean? To see the full 180 now, and to see Spurs starting to kind of get into the ascendancy, you know. But it's just obviously everyone, like, nobody will give that credit because the trophies thing, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Spurs have been, I think, for me, Spurs have actually been a good side, like a side that kind of beyond a side that you recognise in the league probably since 2010 for me, when they went out and they qualified for the Champions League that year. Remember when Redknapp done at the Etihad, weren't they? For me, I think that's the year where Spurs started to come in the conversation. A challenge for the
Yunus
top four.
Kabul turned into one of the best right wing backs you've ever seen, and then crossed that ball in.
Oh, God. But Spurs, I think, since that point, for me, since my time watching football, they've always been in that conversation in terms of like top teams in around top 6, top 4, and in around that conversation.
I think we went from being everyone's second team as well in the league to not being anymore, which shows like everyone was always like, "Oh, Spurs are my second team."
We were never a threat.
Like the early 2000s, and now we're not
anymore. Until this year. Do you want me to make an admission on this podcast now? I'll make an admission live on this podcast. Spurs were one of my second teams until the 6-1. Until that happened, I was like, right.
Like, people always say that. Like, I mean, but I think Spurs were probably the first club to change the conversation from the big four, the top four, because like nobody talks anymore about the top four. It's the big six.
Yeah,
do you know, because Liverpool have now come into the equation as well, and it's funny that Spurs were actually in that conversation before Liverpool were. Do you know? But now it's Spurs and Liverpool have made it into a 6 in terms of that competition, because it was always
I don't know.
It was always United
are kind of before Spurs, because I mean when you look at the early 2000s, like they were always around the top 3 and top 4.
Remember that picture?
Top 4 wasn't Champions League. Top 3 was.
Yeah.
Top 2 was.
Yeah.
Remember that picture of like the kind of like 2000s, the 4 most recognizable jerseys: United's AIG one, Arsenal's I can't. Who was your sponsor, William?
Which one?
Dreamcast, was it?
Yeah, Dreamcast probably would be one of them.
No, Emirates.
Arsenal the O2 jersey. United.
Oh, the O2. O2, yeah.
O2, sorry. Yeah.
United, Arsenal
O2, Chelsea,
Samsung, and Liverpool had Carlsberg, and they were like the big 4. Like, they were like the top 4, like the juggernauts, not only the Premier League 4. But since then, obviously, like Spurs, Man City, they both kind of come into the equation. We all know how Man City got there, which I will discuss with my colleagues from Man City Fan TV later on during the week. On Devil's Advocate, that's
because Man United, that really like poor club that don't spend any money at all, like, trying to compete with City.
We won't go there. But look, in that regard, they're like the big club. Like, you see, kind of since 2010, that's where the shit kind of changed in terms of conversation, in terms of just the top 4, and it wasn't just 4 teams. It was the conversation. Now you look later on. Now there's Leicester come into that conversation. Wolves have come into that conversation. You know what I mean? I know it's not been branded yet, but long before it be branded top 7, top 8. Do you know what I mean? Because these teams are so competitive and they're bridging the gap between the top 6.
But I can't wait for that. I genuinely, I look forward to it. I like that. I as much as it obviously means that there's far more pressure then on Spurs, but I think, like, I really look forward to the time when there's a top 8 or a big 8, and you're thinking, like, okay, like there could be any of 8 teams, like, not just like, because at the moment there's 6 clubs who could effectively qualify for the Champions League. And then you've got like Leicester and Wolves now, but I'm not really sure of them this season either. Maybe Everton, but judging from what I'm seeing here, I don't think so either. But I would love for the Premier League because I know, fair enough, the Premier League, like Mourinho loves the Premier League, he said, because every game's a tough game. But every game is a tough game because you've got the likes of Brighton and the likes of Burnley who are going to defend for their lives and just not try to lose or try not to lose. But I would love to have a league where you've got 10 teams, we'll say, who could potentially qualify for Europe. And because I think for the fan, that's massive, I do really like watching the Premier League. And like Southampton this year, I think have been great. I don't know what happened to them against Spurs. I can't explain what happened against Spurs other than like Spurs were absolutely ruthless. But we don't play like that anymore. And that was only 2 months ago. And I think that the West Ham game hurt Mourinho. And he's seeing now I don't think he hasn't the trust in the players to allow us to play as we did.
Yeah.
Then I think he's gone back to this playing it safe. I liked what I saw from Joe Rodon last week, I'll admit. A couple of shaky moments, but his first game. First game. I don't think he's going to be another Kirikesh. I think he genuinely has quality about him. Like all the Swansea fans were going off their heads when we signed him. But I think we still need that elite level centre half. And I think if we go out and do that in January, I think if we sell Sanchez and we get that centre half, I think you'll see Spurs play more attacking football from having a better centre half.
I think so. I think
January
you might see different Spurs completely.
Like it's no secret. Like you look at Liverpool, they were expansive, but they're a bit screwed when they didn't have a centre half. But then like you look, they got Van Dijk in, and you seen the difference there. Like, do you know what I mean? But look, in terms of like, look, we've got our score predictions. I haven't got my one in yet, and I'm gonna say it now. I'm gonna go. I hate to say this because it's gonna build up your propaganda a bit more top the table, but I'm going to go with 3-0 Spurs. I think Spurs win this game. I think they have a bit too much for Arsenal. I know people saying that Derby's form goes out the window, but I just don't think Arsenal have enough in midfield to break Spurs down. I think Spurs have been very defensively resolute. I think Arsenal's players are too off form at the moment to beat Spurs. I think Spurs are on the up. I'm saying this now because I have no pressure on me with this result. Like I have no pressure.
I'll give you an interesting fact, right? I want to bring this. So, say in terms of like the odds, right? So, say Spurs are evens tomorrow, right? So, basically, the expected chance of Spurs winning is 50%. When Spurs are expected to win at these odds, they only win actually 34% of their games, right? Arsenal are 11-4. When Arsenal are 11-4, they actually win 64% of their games.
So that's it, boys. We're going to win the league.
So I was keeping that. That was my little fun fact for this game, but it's not a fun fact for me. It actually scares me. But I was keeping that one in. But yeah, so. When Spurs, and any Spurs fan would have told you that. That when we're expected to win a game, that's when we're at our most shaky. But the Arsenal stat that when they're 11-4, so Arsenal's odds of winning are 27%.
When we're the underdogs, we usually show up.
When Arsenal's odds are around this, they've won 64% of the games. So that's a mad stat there. I don't see your 3-0, Keane. I really don't.
It's 13-1 on Paddy Power, and Spurs to win 3-0.
I will absolutely sing your praises if it is the right scoreline. But a Spurs win tomorrow puts Spurs 11 points ahead of Arsenal, and that's massive. Now, a couple of seasons ago,
that's unthinkable for an Arsenal fan.
But a couple of seasons ago, Keane, we did have an 11 or 12 point lead against them. But it was at the top end of the table. It was in the battle for the Champions League, and Arsenal ended up catching us. We all
know 12-point leads can be dropped from fans of all these clubs.
Yeah, fact.
Okay, Leicester last season.
Yeah, 14 points they were 14 points ahead of us last season. But Leicester, like that's Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers is a bottler. Like I'm gonna say it right now. He done it with he done it with Liverpool, done it with Leicester. It would shock me if it happens again. But that's more Brendan Rodgers. I'm not gonna, like praise
Yeah,
on
sure.
even though
Look, we'll see.
Bruno scored all the penalties in the world stratosphere to get us that clawed back that 14 points. Yeah, but no, just throwing out some odds there just before we go. Williams 2-1, it's 11-1. 2-1 Arsenal. Tomorrow is 11-1. Steve's and Jamie's 2-1 is 7-1. So if you want to fancy a bet with that, do jump on it. But if you're optimistic and you're like me going for a 3-0 Spurs, it's 13-1. And so if you want to go for that, that'll be a good bet. But look, that's us wrapped for today. We went over an hour and 36 minutes. So that's a very good show. As you can see, I'm dying. I'm absolutely dying. I'm cold this morning, so I'm going to go to bed for myself before the United match today. But look, we're back then on Thursday. I'm joined by the lads from Manchester City Fan TV on our United show, Devil's Advocate. So that promises to be a good show. A good show. A lot to debate on that show, and then the lads will be back this week as well on the London Lowdown this week as well, and obviously reviewing this game and talk about more all things London clubs. Sean Maroney will be back on the channel as well on that London Lowdown. I think he's a bit slightly hungover today, so I don't think he was going to make an appearance today. But, this show today, really enjoyed it despite my cold kicking in halfway through the show. But yeah, look, do follow the lads on social media, and there you can see all their handles. I know Mackie's down there as Mac, but you can follow him on Twitter at Mackie Murphy as well. They all have their own propagandas that they do spread on social media. So the Tottenham propaganda, Williams Arsenal propaganda, as always, with my socials, and the Bruno Fernandes
Mine is
train.
I don't have any propaganda. Mine is absolutely just moaning about Spurs.
And if you want to go at like all celebrities and whoever else, on Twitter, do catch up there as well, because sometimes it's quite funny,
And if you do follow me on social media, check it out. I'm doing 6-kilometer runs tomorrow for charity. Any donations would greatly be appreciated, and I will be in absolute ribbons by the time 4:30 comes around.
Yeah, look, Steve, if you have the link for that charity, we will post that out on our
Twitter.
Yeah. Throw it on your Twitter page. We'll have it up on the Weekly Armchair Twitter page as well. So look, thanks everyone for watching. Do hit that like button. It does a lot. Hit subscribe. We're looking to hit 150 before Christmas. We're 4 off it, so we're nearly there. So look, lads, again, cheers for coming on. Enjoy the game tomorrow, and look at Kathy during the week.
Thanks, boys.
Cheers.
No, well.
Thanks.